Every day I wake up now and I'm like, what's going on in Britain? Like to me, it's a comedy show and also a religious ceremony. Like first, the moment I open my eyes, I have to thank Jesus for his eternal kindness and compassion that he didn't allow me to get born in Britain. Right? Like I'm not a British citizen, so I'm thankful for that. I'm like, thank God, thank you for your mercy, thank you for your kindness. I wasn't born in Britain, but then realizing, oh, hold on a little bit, I'm not born in Britain. I can actually watch their news as if they're comedy, as if they're the clown car of the world. Because like it's news that literally doesn't affect me. And so I opened the telly and I'm looking at what's going on today, and I gotta say they didn't fail to deliver.
But just to repeat, do you condemn this racism? Barring white people,
Well, it's
particularly
not
British.
racism,
No, hang on a
Martin.
minute. Barring white people because of their skin colour, which is a preordained thing we can't do anything about. We're born white, we're born brown, we're born black, whatever. We can't change that. And West Yorkshire Police have specifically said they are pausing the recruitment of white people. That's racism.
What they're doing is they're complying with the Equalities Act, the 2010 Equalities Act. And what they are
Well, that's
saying...
racist.
I guess when you deal with a person like this that changed the definition, you would have to ask, well, how would racism look like? Okay, no, you know what? Fine. It's not racism. It's not. How would racism look like? And then you spin it on them. And then it's going to be very difficult for them to talk. They will say like, well, racism is power and prejudice. And then you get to go, okay, so like how much power do white people need to not have in order for such an act to be considered racist? And then you point out, what about London? Like, how are white people powerful in London? Like, the mayor is Muslim, and then you have the percentages of the demographics. Like, I understand, you know, you can't be racist in Yorkshire, but can you be racist in London? You will see how fast they become uncomfortable with this conversation when you put them on the spot and they have to answer questions. Because at this point, everyone knows that they're operating under different definitions, right? Like in order for them to do bad things, they basically change the definition of the thing so that they can get away with it. And everyone is aware of that. But what people aren't aware is the depravity of the mindset. Like if you start digging and you start rationalizing, right? And then you can start asking them like even more stuff. It's like, all right, so you can't be racist to white people. So there is nothing you can do to a white person because they're white, which can be summarized as racism. Like, what if you put them in a gulag? Is that racism? Like, what if you pass a law? Hypothetically, I know it will never happen. But hypothetically speaking, for the sake of this argument, if you passed a law to put all white people under forced labor just because they're white, or if their parents committed a crime, we now apply that punishment. You know, if their parents stole, let's say, and committed a crime that's warranted 4 years in prison, like maybe they said something racist on Facebook, and we punish their children for the crime as well. So like the dad says racismus, we punish the dad and we lock up the kid as well just in case, you know? Would that be a problem? Like would that be considered racism? Yes, no, why not? Why would you consider it? Where is the line, right? If you start to ask them the same way that they deconstructed normality with like obvious questioning and just seeing how deep it goes, and trying to get them boxed in with actual definitions, you will see how fast they crack. You will see how fast they become uncomfortable, and they don't want to answer the questions because obviously they would look like monsters. Right? Like the whole thing with racism is a new concept, which, by the way, the British actually are the first nation on earth that genuinely fought against racism. Like they ended slavery compared to other nations, and now they're punished for it. It's like, you are so fucking stupid. In a world where everyone has slaves, you guys decided to go to war against the concept of slavery, to use your navy and to stop slavery from happening, so now you need to be punished, right? Fucking insane. But this is what they're unironically thinking. And if you want to expose them for any reason, like, this is how you do it. You ask them questions.
Hold on, if you look on their no, it's not. Well, if you look on their website...
Okay, well, how would it look like if it was? That's the question you need to ask. Okay, it's not. What exactly would need to happen for you to say, okay, that's racism? Like, when would you draw the line then?
they are actually encouraging those from ethnic minorities to join policing.
Why would they even need to do that? Like, if you do that, you're basically saying that minorities are policing differently than white people. Okay. You're now saying that there's a difference between the races. Like, what methods of policing do minorities have that white people are incapable of, and vice versa? Because now you would have to admit that there are methods of policing that white people have that minorities are incapable of. And I don't want to see only positives and negatives, right? You're not an ideologue. Like, it should be a list of things, some positive, some negative, and you need to go into that conversation, and then you look like a fucking Nazi. And by the way, another thing, did you notice how Britain defeated the Nazis? Like, they're the European countries that didn't want to surrender, and now we're all acting as if they were the ones creating Nazism. Again, I generally don't understand why British people aren't fighting against this ideology, and they'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Out of the entire world, it was us and our colonies that fought Nazism. Why are you acting like we're the ones responsible? No one has the stones to say that. No one is able to push back against this ideology for some reason.
West Yorkshire, which is part of Leeds, Bradford and Huddersfield, has a 23% makeup of minority communities. They only actually have 9% within the force. Between 2023
but anybody could apply.
Let me finish.
Anybody can apply to be a copper. There's no barrier to applying. Well, there is now. There's a barrier if you're white.
I agree. There's not a barrier if you're white. There is a...
There literally says police pauses hiring white recruits. If your kid is considered white, right? Like if people were to eyeball your kid and they would consider him white, would he have a chance at working as a police officer? If their dream is to become a police officer and the police is saying they're pausing hiring for white recruits, how would he be able to become a police officer? These are the questions you're asking. You know, like, let's say you have a kid, and hypothetically speaking, I don't care what race you are, right? Like, maybe she's Jewish, maybe she's Hindi, I don't know. Maybe she's white, but like, let's say the kid actually looks white. People aren't able to tell. Like, they're eyeballing him. They're concluding, yeah, Caucasian. His dream is to become a police officer. That's what he wants to do. You know, ever since he was a kid, he was watching Cops. He really wants to protect and serve. Like, he's honest about it. He's not like a manipulative person that wants to be a police officer for power. He generally wants to be a police officer, right? How can he do that? Like what path would he be able to have if his police station is saying that they're pausing hiring recruits that look like him? What if you have like a company that wants to hire a runner, right? Like what they just that's what they want to do. That doesn't matter why. They want to hire a person that runs fast, right? But they're saying all of a sudden, well, we already have like 5 people that are black and they're runners, so now we want a white guy. And you have a person like Usain Bolt that wants to apply, and they're going to say, no, sorry, Usain Bolt, you know, we need some diversity now. Like, we already have 5 black people. Like, what they're doing is basically they're saying no to the most competent person in the area. Like, there is no one better than Usain Bolt at running. Like, he is the top. That's it, right? And so they're basically saying, no, this person isn't allowed because of arbitrary reasons. So they're going to settle for mediocrity. Now, it's fine if you do that once. You know, you're going to have some mediocre runners. Like, you're obviously not going to get the best because you've already decided you're not even going to check their performance or even be interested. And if you do this consistently, what do you think will happen with your performance? And not to mention, like, aren't you normalizing racism? Like, aren't you normalizing the concept, well, I shouldn't be policed unless the person looks exactly like me? Because this is fascinating. You know, like, okay, you're saying that the town has like 25% minority. Why aren't you saying that the police should only be hired from the local population, from the town? Like, let's be fucking honest, you know? Would I want to be policed by the person that lives on my neighborhood, like, regardless of his race? But as long as he lives in my neighborhood, why? Because, like, number one, there's accountability, right? Like, if he commits something monstrous or a crime, like, people know who he is. Like, he's a neighbor. You know where he lives. versus like someone that comes from like 3 or 4 cities away, doesn't understand the neighborhood, doesn't know any of the people, doesn't fucking care, doesn't have to live here. Right? Like it would make more sense to say, no, like the police is only going to hire from that town, from that place. But you're not saying that. What you're saying is, no, like people have to be policed by their own race. So in other words, you're reinforcing the mentality that there is the race tribe that you need to pledge allegiance to. Like, I'm pretty sure there is racism in the world and there is unconscientious biases. But what they are trying to accomplish is to use all of the finances, all of the money to reinforce those biases, to re-strengthen them so that the grift can keep going. So that the politicians can keep going, getting votes on this grift. So that this lady, probably makes money on being anti-racist or whatnot. Like she needs the grift to keep going. And you notice there's other countries that don't do this. Like Russia is multi-ethnic. Russia has a diversity way more interesting than the one in the United States. They're not doing this. I'm not using Russia as an example here, as like peak human culture, but what I am trying to say is that this is not normal. Britain didn't used to do this 30 years ago, and yet they still had better policing and less crime. How did Britain manage 30 years ago to not have this mentality and at the same time had lower levels of crime? Like what is the purpose of policing? Is the purpose of policing to be like the parliament so that everyone can see themselves represented? Or is the purpose of policing to lower crime and then you don't fucking care who does it? Like if you can replace the police with AI and you have like Robocops and shit, as long as the crime level goes down, like that's a good thing? Because like at the end of the day, that's what people want, right? But no, apparently that's not the goal anymore. The goal is the appearance and the optics.
Anyone can apply. Anyone can apply for the process, as I understand.
Yeah, anyone can apply, but you're not going to be selected. Right? Like if I was to say, you need 100 years of experience to get the job, the translation is like, I'm not interested in giving the job to anyone. Like, think about it, right? Like if I make a recruitment and I say, you need to have 100 years of experience in order to get the job. Well, the translation is I don't want to hire anyone, but I say, well, you can apply. Sure, you can apply. Yeah, obviously. But the message is like, don't bother.
It. They are encouraging those from minority backgrounds to apply, and then what they're doing is when the application process is coming in, absolutely everybody and anybody that applies goes through the same process together, and therefore it's not discriminatory.
Why can't they encourage more people from ethnic minorities to...
Well, I would spin it around and I would say, so like, you're saying that if a police station would say that they're pausing hiring for people of color, and when people call them racist, they're like, no, we're not discouraging anyone to apply. Like, we just want to encourage more white people. Would you find a problem with that? Again, you just spin it around and you keep asking her questions like that. And you'll see that she becomes uncomfortable because she understands what's going on.
Apply. Brilliant. And then just choose the best candidates. Why do they have to go through that process at the same time? And I quote...
I wouldn't even ask this question at this point. I would be like, don't you think it's a grift? Like, don't you think that by encouraging this practice, certain NGOs are getting funded so they can justify their existence? Because I think, like, this type of practice breaks unity. It breaks cohesion. It breaks harmony. And so NGOs that claim to be against racism benefit from this, and they're using our taxpayer money, and they keep the grift going. You really have to change the dialogue. Maybe you need to borrow a little bit of foreign philosophy. Like, you need to look a little bit in Asia. You need to look a little bit in Japan, maybe in China, and their mentality. And they're all about unity and harmony. And if they change the definition of racism, and it's a lost cause because, again, like they just parrot the talking points. They don't think for themselves. They don't know what to say if they're on the spot, right? So if they're playing with definitions, well, maybe it's time for the opposition to play with definitions as well. And instead of talking about racism and fairness, you talk about unity, cohesion, harmony. Like, maybe this is why the town is not healing and there's crime everywhere. It lost its unity, it lost its cohesion, it lost its harmony. I bet they wouldn't know what to say if that was the question. Because now they would have to say why unity is wrong, why harmony is wrong, and it makes them sound bad because they don't have like the polished answers for that. And I think like that would be a new solution, right? Like there's an entire different mentality out there that's coming from Asia, and it's internally consistent, and it makes sense for the common person because, again, it's just like the philosophy of the ancient Greeks with Stoicism. Like you can't really argue against it. And so if you import, like you don't have to copy the entire Asian philosophy, but like the talking points that make sense and apply to the thing that you're saying, if you use that and you restructure the entire definitions and the entire framework, they won't know what to say and they're going to look absolutely ridiculous on camera. Like justify to me how this makes unity in the city, how this brings harmony. She's going to look at what? Oh, yeah, like crime happens when there's no harmony, there's no unity. That's literally the definition of crime. The definition of the police is to crack down on crime. And you're making it so people don't feel unified. You're spreading people into different tribes. You're causing conflict. You're breaking harmony. And you're supporting that. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.